What's up, fam? This is TJ Holmes. I'm finally back in the Ville. It's been a long trip, but I thank God that I made it back safely, and also because I am top five in the world. That's truly amazing. Uh, I always had the faith that I knew that I would be able to make it to the World Championships final once again. Of course, I wanted to get a medal, but even though I didn't, I'm still very grateful. And I also want to let you guys know that I did some thinking, and I know I don't really talk much on my social media, so I decided that I would start doing Testimony Tuesdays. So every Tuesday, I would basically tell you guys a little piece of my life, so that way you guys can get to know me a lot better. Also, because I think it will help a lot of people, because there's been some amazing things that has happened to me, and it wasn't explainable to certain people because they didn't believe it. But as time went on, they began to see that how the journey started to go, and the things that I would tell them would begin to come true. And at first, I never had any doubt in my mind because I knew it would happen. Because things that my grandma told me, who was a prophetess, she would tell me things starting my freshman year of college, and that's when I finally began to build my own personal strong relationship with God because that helped me a lot. That gave me a lot of faith to know that this is a lot greater than our eyes can see. So I'm definitely going to start making these videos for you guys so that way you can see how my life has changed. And I made a video a few years ago, it was in 2017. That video was just discussing how I first started to run track and then my life as a professional athlete, like the startup of it. But now, since I've been a professional athlete going into my third year, there's definitely been a lot of more things that has happened, and also I'm gonna share with you guys supernatural experience that I have had since my sophomore year of college. Well, actually, the first one was when I was a 7-year-old kid, and it was extremely, I don't even like, this is unexplainable. But before we get into that, I want to give you guys some background knowledge of my childhood. So when I was 4 years old, I was adopted. Before being adopted, I stayed with my great grandma, me and my three siblings. So I have two older sisters and one younger sister. My oldest sister's name is Shauna. My second oldest sister's name is Deja. And my younger sister's name is Moet. So, yes, we were raised by our great grandma. And when it was time, well, she was getting much older, so she had to go to a nursing home because she couldn't keep us any longer. And it was time for us to actually move out and find a place to stay. And I was the last one who didn't have a place. So now my mother, who is known as Elizabeth Carswell, she was also visiting because I guess she knew her mom, Mildred Taylor, knew my family. So they basically were close friends with our family. And when they came to the house, my mom, Elizabeth Carswell, said that she came to me and saw that my hand was very sweaty and I was a 4-year-old child. And I told her, please take me. I'm good peoples. And that's just so crazy because a 4-year-old child, like knowing the situation, what's about to happen, and the fact that I was able to even speak to her like that, I knew it was no one but God because He knew what this journey would go. Like He knew exactly the plan He had set for us. So she went back and spoke to my current father, Terrell Holmes. I never met my real dad, and he's always been the only dad I've known, and I wouldn't want to replace him because he's the reason why I am where I am today. Even though he would make sure I exceeded well in school and also in sports. Like, people would think he was strict on me, but it was actually good for me because I was a bad child. So I'm actually thankful and I'm glad that he did raise me the way that he did. He was definitely a strong man who allowed me to also become a strong man. So back to where I was at. She went home and talked to him about it, and then they decided that they would adopt me. My biological mother's name is Cassandra Hall, and I speak to her now every once in a while. We don't really have like a strong relationship. I don't know much about her or like her family, but I do know like a few people from that side of my family. Like my cousin, she was much older. She was probably like in her late 20s, maybe when I was 4. So I don't really know the age range, but I know that she took in my two older sisters, and when they lived with her, I would see them. Even though we split up, I would see them probably a few weeks apart. Not every week, but like on an on and off basis. And but my younger sister, she was actually adopted by my current mom, Elizabeth. She was adopted by her older sister. So I would see my younger sister all the time. Like she would come over, she would spend the night. We would go to our grandma's house, Mildred's. So after a few years, my two older sisters, they actually did not live with my cousin anymore, and they got split up also. They were just going to a lot of different homes, so I kind of was not around to see them. And once we got older, that's when we finally got back connected. But I remember one time I was on I was on a bus. I was in third grade. I was on a bus to go to school, and I hadn't seen my older sister Shauna in forever. And I don't know how, but we were at the bus was stopped on some street. I don't know if we had to get maintenance or whatever, but we were just parked there for a while, just waiting. And when I looked out of the window, I saw her walking, I guess, to her bus stop or to school. And I let the window down and I just screamed. I was like, Shauna. And then she looked up and she was like, hey, TJ. She has like a real soft voice. So it was just really a great feeling that I was able to still see her after all those years because I didn't know where they were at. And then a few years later, when I was in high school, I actually saw my older sister Shauna again because I had a track meet at her high school. She was probably like a junior or senior in high school. And I went to Pinellas Park. That's where the track meet was. And when I was going inside to go use the restroom, she walked out of the door, like the school door where school was over and all the kids were coming out. And somehow out of all the kids, like she was the one right there at the door when I walked in. And then we just rekindled once again. And after high school, that's when she was able to get her own place, an apartment, and start her own family with her husband Nick. And then she also had my first niece Kylie. So I would go over to her house a lot with my younger sister. And then that's when my other older sister Deja would be over there sometimes also. So we were able to basically rejoin and start up a new trend of our family because they both started to have children. So this has been a really great thing, and I'm also going to start to talk about the things that happened growing up as a child. So yes, those things did happen, but it didn't really affect me because the people that God placed in my life, they definitely raised me to become a nice, strong man because I used to have a bad attitude growing up. Like, I don't know. It was just like I would talk back and everything to the teachers or to my parents. And when I would go to school and the teachers would like feel the need to say certain things to me that they said to all kids, but for some reason I just wouldn't let it slip by or go past me because I knew it wasn't the right thing to say. So I would always have something to say back. And that's why I would get in trouble a lot in school and they would be like, just go to the principal's office. But before this all happened, I was a 7-year-old child, and usually me and my grandma usually always were together because she would spend the night at my house or I would spend the night at her house. But since this wasn't really like a necessary trip for her to come to my place because my parents were only going to the store that was up around the street, so they left to go to Walgreens to go pick up some snacks and I was in my room just watching TV, probably Pokemon or something. That's what I used to like to watch growing up. But I was at home watching TV, and when I was on my bed, like I randomly looked over to the hallway because it was like my room, and then to the right of my room was my parents' room, and then across the hall from their room was the bathroom. So I'm sitting in my room, and I looked in the hallway, and then I saw this very tall, skinny, pitch black figure, and it was shaped just like a human's body, but it didn't have any face or anything, but it had legs and it had arms. And when I was sitting there, it started to run back and forth from the room, and it was like giggling, like hee hee, like it kept doing that back and forth, all up until my parents came home, and it really did scare me. But it never came in my room, and I had like a Coca-Cola phone with the dials. This was like a long time ago, and you got to dial the phone back. I didn't know how to work it. It was just there for decoration. So while this is happening, I'm just sitting there and I'm really scared, and I didn't know what to do because I'm a child. So like now I would have said the blood of Jesus because I knew that would have protected me and everything would have been fine and would have went away because it fears that name. But since I'm a 7-year-old child, I didn't know much about Christianity, and I wasn't that in tune with my spiritual side. But when my parents came back home, I ran straight to the front door, and I was just hugging them, and I was scared, and I was telling them what had happened. But of course, parents just gonna think like, oh, it's just kids talking about monsters. So it was like, boy, just go to sleep. They didn't really take me on about that, but that's the first supernatural experience that I ever had. And then that's when I grew up and everything was normal. I still was kind of bad in school. My parents would always have to come to my school to pick me up, or I was on an ABC detention, whatever they call it. I don't know what everyone calls it, but we called it ABC or AMSET. So, yeah, I was definitely always in trouble in the office, but they never gave up on me. Of course, when I got home, they would handle me. That was necessary because if not, I would have just been doing whatever I wanted. So, by the time I got in my late years of high school, that's when I finally started to settle down because that's when I definitely realized that if I wanted to become something like I said I did from growing up from elementary school to middle school, I always used to say that I wanted to go to the University of Florida, and look at now. God made it possible, and I definitely graduated from the University of Florida, ran track for the University of Florida, and now I'm a professional athlete and a strong man of God. So I definitely am grateful for the life that I have had so far, and I know it's going to do nothing but get even better. There's definitely a lot of more things that has happened in my life that I am going to share, but I want to do it each Tuesday. I want to upload a new video leaving off from the last point that I made. So I don't want to really get into my college experience yet, only because I think it would be better for me to do it week by week because it'll show you how my life definitely changed and I developed into the person who I am today. So today's video recap was just discussing about my childhood, me being adopted when I was 4 years old, me getting blessed with a new family who definitely took care of me and raised me to be a strong man who I am today. Also, it discussed my first supernatural experience that definitely blew my mind, and that I could never forget it because I just know it was nothing. Like I didn't ever think things like that could happen. And so since going to college and then seeing the new things that happened to my life that were also supernatural experiences, it made me realize like I was just different. I don't know. It's because I would talk to my friends about it, and of course they would laugh, but I wasn't afraid to talk to anybody about it. I just felt like I can't talk to people about it who aren't experiencing those things because they're not going to understand. But then I realized that the older I got, I should speak to people about it because then that'll allow them to recognize that it gets so much bigger than we think. And it also would help them gain faith and start to believe that this body that we're in is just here for now, but coming soon, there's going to be a lot of greater things that our eyes will witness. So I'm definitely going to start explaining more things on this story so that way you guys can know a lot more about me, and it'll help anyone who has questions or who's experienced things in their life that they didn't know like what to expect or how to overcome it. I'm definitely going to be here to answer any questions and also keep you guys updated. I'll see you next Tuesday with a new Testimony Tuesday, and I'm glad I was able to start the journey off today.